Hello and welcome everyone. I'm James Milan, and this is a new episode of our series $1 Million Gift. It is ACMI's effort to celebrate and in some ways quantify the value of volunteer energy in this town, which probably is an impossible task because it is an invaluable resource. I am joined today by Kelsey Cowen, who is an at-large resident member of the Open Space Committee, and we're here to talk about a particular project that Kelsey is in charge of called Take a Walk. And so, first of all, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And tell us a little bit about, just give us an introduction to what Take a Walk is. I think I have, I think I could make some guesses, but go ahead and let us know.
Sure, yeah. So the Take a Walk project started with the Conservation Commission here in Arlington and kind of shifted over to the Open Space Committee because they had more time, more energy, and were interested in investing more in this project. And the hope of the project is to really get people out and walking and connecting via walking routes some of the most interesting and significant points in the town of Arlington. So things like Spy Pond, some of the playgrounds and parks, as well as small businesses and some of the other resources we have in the town.
Great, and we are here at one of those iconic spots and looking out over Spy Pond, a lovely view that I never get tired of, even after 20 plus years of living in town and coming by here regularly. How is it that that the project is getting people to, be aware of these different routes that you're talking about, right? Because I believe that what you're doing is letting people know how easily they can connect by using their feet from one place of interest to another in Arlington. Is that right? So how are people finding out about this through the project?
Sure. So we have drafted some maps with some of the walking routes on them. So we started in East Arlington with kind of Spy Pond being a very central open space for that walking route system. And also because East Arlington is one of the most walkable neighborhoods in Arlington. It's flat.
Especially after the renovations of the last few years.
Exactly,
I mean, it's a transformed area of Arlington, I can say.
Yes, certainly, yeah. And when you compare it to the Heights, which is all hills, obviously, it's just easier to walk around, and there's quite a bit to see in East Arlington as well. We kind of just started with picking some of the significant points, Capitol Square, Spy Pond, Thorndike and Magnolia, and then we just kind of drafted out walking via neighborhoods and the bike path, just some of the connections that you can walk in between those significant points.
So where are these maps available? Are they in printed form and available, say, at the tourist center, or are they available online? Both? How do people access them?
So they're available online. They're in a PDF form so that people can print them off at home and use them to go out and explore via these walking routes. The hope is to have them in a printed form that people can pick up at local businesses or the library, places like that. But currently they're just on the website, the Open Space Committee website. Okay,
well, that's important to know, because anybody who wants to avail themselves of it, it's simple enough to go ahead and print it out at home. Are there surprises for, who's the intended audience for this? Is this longtime residents and you're subtly encouraging them to discover places that they haven't been to or were perhaps unaware of? Is it more for new residents? How much have you guys thought about that, and who's it intended for?
So I think another reason that we started in East Arlington is that there's quite a bit of new residents moving to that area of Arlington. And so this was an opportunity that we saw to to help people learn about the community that they were moving into. But I think, yeah, I mean, the walking routes are also very helpful in showing people different areas or different ways of getting to their favorite places that they hadn't thought of before. I know one of our Open Space Committee members has been here for 20 years, and she has never been to Mount Gilboa, didn't know it was there. And so through doing this project, she had learned of this new open space to visit after being here for 20 years.
Well, I guess I got a confession to make myself, which is only since I have been working at ACMI and talking to folks like yourself, have I discovered Mount Gilboa,
Right,
that
yeah,
exact
it's a
same
secret,
place,
yeah.
because it is somewhat hidden. It's definitely off the beaten path here in Arlington. Totally worth, anybody's visit. But you're right. I think that it is clear that for most residents of Arlington, we're glad we live here. We appreciate many aspects of being in town. I'm not sure how many people think of this as a walking community, as a, even though it's just 5.5 square miles, it's clearly a handleable amount of space. I'm not sure how often people are getting out and taking a walk to be able to encompass the different areas of Arlington. So clearly there could be a real need there for this kind of thing. And we are situated here right along the bike path, which technical difficulties, unfortunately, are precluding us being able to actually walk and talk. But let's talk a little bit about the bike path. I know that for many people, it's just the central artery in town for getting back and forth, not only on bikes, but by other means as well. Is that a key component to take a walk?
Yes, definitely. So it's also, the bike path is definitely a main artery for the walking routes as well. It's kind of a perfect walking infrastructure. I mean, it's quiet, it's paved, it's very easy to walk. And so it's definitely something that we really hope to kind of build the walking routes off of, since a lot of people already know about it. And it's really just a matter of turning right or left at the intersections to get to some of the parks and small businesses and things like that.
And how is it that you figured out the more tangential or arterial parts of these routes? So I would imagine there could be 3 different streets that one could go along in order to get from the bike path over to, I don't know, Robbins Farm Park or Robbins Park or something like that. How did you figure out, like, what were the considerations that went into, or criteria that went into determining, hey, let's recommend that people walk this way?
Sure. So I think, well, first of all, to your point, there's several ways of getting to the same place, especially walking. And so I think that a big goal of the walking routes is actually to get people to kind of, here's one way, but here's also an opportunity for you to get out and explore and find those other ways that you might like better or might be more interesting. So it's not you don't have to follow the routes. It's a way of just kind of getting familiar with the environment. But I think, primarily we were looking for routes that are easy to walk. The sidewalks are in pretty good shape. They might be a little bit prettier than the next road over. So we really just kind of used the intel, the knowledge of the Open Space Committee members to really kind of find a good set of draft routes, and then kind of reached out to the public to also see what they thought might be an even better way of getting to this place, getting to Capitol Square, what have you, and also what they might be looking for out of the routes themselves in terms of safety and, length, things like that.
Oh, that's great to hear that there was clearly a component of accessing public opinion and public experience, broader experience than that even of those of you who are doing, on the project, in order to be able to incorporate, again, like community wisdom or preferences into the ultimate map or maps. So when you were drafting, going through all of this, or I guess actually I'm thinking more about future applications or iterations of the project. Is there an idea to incorporate technology? We've talked with other folks around other projects here in Arlington, where clearly the proliferation, the complete saturation of iPhones or smartphones
Right, yeah.
into the population has been a tool that they are either currently incorporating or intend to. Are there plans to do so with Take a Walk?
Yeah, definitely. So as I said, right now it's just kind of you print it off at home and you have something in your hands that you can use to go out and walk around. But I think we are exploring ideas of like geocoded maps, so you can pull it up on your phone and you can see where you are relative to the walking routes. So that you know how to get there. So yeah, there definitely is some hope to get some more technology involved in the project, so that people can really just kind of pull it up right on their phone as they're, maybe even doing their regular walks after dinner or what have you. They can pull the app right up and be able to see how to explore even more.
Well, as you may know, and as our audience may know, there are two prongs to this series that we're doing. One is to find out really what is the work that is being done by volunteers who join boards and committees and agencies in town. And then the second is to find out what it is that personally motivates people who are willing to volunteer their time and energy, et cetera. So in talking to various folks who have spent lots of years, in fact, doing so, here in Arlington, there's been a consistent theme that they'd love for younger members, younger residents to join them in the work that they do, and they wonder how to appeal to such people, etc. So what's your story? You are a representative today of the younger residents that they were referring to. So tell us a little bit about your own background, what it is that's interesting to you about this particular project, what brought you to Arlington, how long you've been here, all that stuff.
All right, sounds great. So I had graduated in 2015 from undergrad and had gotten my bachelor's in environmental work. And had been, actively looking for a job over the summer after that I had graduated. My boyfriend and I had moved to Arlington right after I graduated because he had gotten a job downtown. But so in looking for a job, I just still wanted to do work. Like I wanted to be doing what I loved in terms of environmental work. And so had reached out to originally the Conservation Commission to see if I could volunteer for them and offer some of my time for that to them. And as I had said at the beginning, that this project had kind of started with that, with the Conservation Commission, and so they kind of were just like, hey, why don't you work on this project? We want to make it great, and you have the time. Why don't you do it? And from there, as the project got shifted over to the Open Space Committee, I started volunteering for them. Just really enjoyed, the committee meetings and being able to learn not only just about Arlington, the town, but also some of the more technical aspects of environmental work, especially at the local level. So people were talking about easements, and I'd kind of heard about it, but had not really had the context until being a part of the Open Space Committee. So it was giving me a lot of kind of on-the-ground experience in environmental work, community development, all of these things that I was really passionate about. So from there, I became a member, and the project continues, and I continue to be a member and really enjoy it. And it's actually made me feel very connected to Arlington, despite only being here for a few years. It's a community that I love, even after just a short time, and I think that the Open Space Committee has been a large part of that.
Well, a couple of things strike me in what you were just saying. One is that you mentioned in an offhand way that your boyfriend, that you moved to Arlington because your boyfriend got a job downtown. Hey, welcome to Arlington, right? That is the story of many, many, many of us,
Yes, yeah.
because that's what makes Arlington. That's what gives Arlington, in a lot of ways, I think, the particular character it has, right? Which is that it is a community largely of commuters, and people could attend to what is happening in their town as much or as little as they are, feel inclined to do. And part of what we at ACMI are doing, part of what this series is about, is to encourage people, and certainly part of what, a big part of what Take a Walk is about, is to encourage people to be more present and attentive to the place that they're living in. And, with the subtext being, hey, it's worth it. There's a lot of great stuff here. And I think that this is another example of that. But a second thing that you said that I just wanted to perhaps dig into a little bit more,
Sure.
is that sounds like what motivated you to get going with this particular work is the fact that you're coming out of college, you have your values that you've identified already, that they may or may not apply to your work context, because of course you've got to make a living. And if ideally those two things converge, if they don't, then there's still a way for you to be able to practice your values, right? And that's through, in this case, volunteerism.
Yes, yeah.
Do you feel like that's first of all, I guess, is that an accurate description of what's happened
Yeah.
for you? And do you have anything to say to others who are similarly situated, i.e. coming out of college, first job or jobs, not quite doing perhaps exactly in the sweet spot of what they're interested in? Is this a way of, I don't know, just increasing your sense of your quality of life by spending some of your free time doing the things that matter to you in terms of values?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that I think town government is not necessarily the first thing you think of when you're thinking of, oh, I should volunteer to, as you were saying, to be doing things that are not necessarily what I'm doing in my job, but I'm passionate about. But there's a lot of demand, I think, for the energy that that an undergraduate would bring, or someone right out, even their master's degree, like someone right out of school. I think that there's a lot of demand in, at least there was for my experience. I hit the microphone. Sorry. That town committees and commissions, et cetera, are really hungry for the perspective and for the energy that a young person would bring, and so I think that I definitely encourage people, if they're not finding a job and just want to continue getting experience, B, if they want to be doing something that is meaningful to them but not tied to their vocation, to look into what's going on in the town that they live in, the community that they live in our case Arlington, to really see what's going on and see if there's a project or a commission that they can get involved with.
And you did say that you enjoyed, like as you joined these committees, started going to meetings, et cetera, that you enjoyed those meetings. Is it a factor for you at all that I would assume that you are mostly dealing with people considerably older than yourself in most of those contexts? Is that a factor one way or the other, positively, negatively? How does that feel for you? How does that work?
Sure. It's definitely a positive. I mean, in terms of, just the wisdom, as you were saying, of long-term residents of Arlington and the knowledge that they bring to the table, and the passion that they have as well for the community that they live in is very apparent. and perhaps it is just the things that I enjoy are similar to the people that I work with, or that are on the Open Space Committee. But they also know a lot about what's going on in the town, and even in neighboring towns, and a lot of those kinds of projects. And Anne Leroyer, who's the chairwoman of the Open Space Committee, she told me about this project that Mount Auburn Cemetery over in Cambridge is doing with their volunteers, and it's like those things that I'm really interested in getting involved with, and just sound fun to me, that I don't think I would have known about if I wasn't part of the Open Space Committee or wasn't working with a generation or two older than myself.
Yeah, what a great answer. What a great explanation, really, because I didn't understand, and I do much better now, that it's not just getting to do work that you believe in and working with people who care as passionately as you do, but a predictable benefit could be for folks that they then are connected to a network of other opportunities, of other interesting projects that you otherwise, even if you really were trying and researching on your own to find these things, you might or might not be able to identify them. You certainly wouldn't necessarily know which ones are worthwhile and which ones less so. And being able, again, to tap into that wealth of experience that your fellow volunteers on these committees have, can just kind of jump start or leapfrog you, beyond wasting your time to some degree on, activities that may or may not be worthwhile, to really do the things that matter most to you and that feel like, again, most fun, as well as kind of the most productive use of your time. That's great. So be mindful of that. That is a definite benefit, and well spoken. Is there anything about Take a Walk or about your own kind of personal journey to get to this point that we haven't talked about that you would like to, like our audience to be mindful of?
Well, I guess I would say that if the audience ever does print out the map for East Arlington, and we are drafting maps for other areas of Arlington, so that...
Okay, so right now it is really just East Arlington.
Correct,
and
yes.
Others to come.
Yes, correct. So we're in the process of drafting a few maps for the Heights. So as people access those maps and go out on the walking routes, we would love to hear other routes that they're finding, that they're really liking, any sort of other feedback that they have on how to make these better, more user-friendly, and really make them into something that people will use and will enjoy using.
Great. And tell us once again where people can access the current map of East Arlington, and soon enough the maps of the rest of the parts of Arlington.
So it's available on the Open Space Committee website, on the town website. So usually what I do is just search Town of Arlington Open Space Committee in Google, and I am brought to the page. And there's a link to a PDF that people can access and print.
Great. So Kelsey, with that, I think we will conclude today's conversation. Again, next time we talk to you, maybe we will be walking right along one of these routes, or more than one, just to see how things have developed. But thanks for spending your time with us today.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
On behalf of Kelsey Cowen and the Open Space Committee and Take a Walk, I'm James Milan for $1 Million Gift. Thanks for joining us.